Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today.
You too.
Maybe kick off with a brief introduction to your film. Good luck to you, Leo Grande. For people who don't know anything about it, what can they expect?
They can expect to watch Emma Thompson being an older woman who decides to hire a sex worker to have good sex for the first time in her life. And then the person that she hires, they end up having kind of a really interesting exploration about themselves over a series of meetings.
And it's not something I think we've seen on screen before, so can you tell us a bit about what the inspiration was behind it?
Well, the writer is a woman called Grande. She's a comedian, and she just had an idea of a woman in a room pacing and waiting for someone to come. And she wrote a really fast draft, you know, this idea of this school teacher who'd kind of always had her life kind of in these boxes of, you know, woman, mother, teacher, and had never really explored what she really wanted underneath, and that she makes this change in her life, which is to go after pleasure in some way, or to try something that she hasn't tried before. She always wrote it for Emma, and she sent it to Em because they know each other, and Emma loved it and really felt there was this familiarity to her, you know, to this character. And you're right, she's a religious education teacher. We haven't really seen her on screen before, and certainly not in a film about sex. And then, you know, a young sex worker who's not necessarily kind of a tragic figure and is not a romantic figure. You know, I think the appeal was very strong for her and for me reading it too.
That was going to be my next question. Was Emma Thompson in mind? Because she just, you know, fits this character like a glove, it seems.
Yeah.
But, you know, once you had her on board, what was it like working with her? I mean, she's such an incredible and versatile actress, but also pairing her with Daryl. I mean, obviously he looks the part aesthetically, but he's also brings such that sensitivity and refinement that also suits the role, and working with those two together to get their chemistry working.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Emma was attached originally, and you can hear her voice when you read the script even. You know, it's just so strong. Finding Leo was a difficult thing. It was like, who are we going to put in this role? This is such a great opportunity. And there are so many brilliant young actors, you know. But when we met Daryl, we just felt like he had these layers that we were looking for, and a kind of physicality and a gentleness as well. I was really interested for him to be a kind of, you know, he's very sexy and he has to present as a kind of fantasy, of course, but that's never the truth of somebody. And so to find somebody that had a lot of ideas and opinions underneath, and is not playing up to masculinity in a way that we often see men doing, was really comforting to put on screen. And Daryl brought a lot of that material in as well. Like, he really helped to kind of shape that character. In terms of their chemistry, we had a great week of rehearsals and they got along really well, but they also just knew that they needed to create a space between themselves that was very strong and very safe. And it was intensive because, you know, it's a 19-day shoot. We were together all the time, 6-day weeks, rehearsing on the Sunday as well. And they never have a break. You know, they're on screen all the time. And so whatever was going on emotionally in the scenes would sort of filter out, and they'd use it. And, you know, it was like a bit of a marathon. But Emma couldn't be a better person to, like, guide us through that in some ways. Like, everyone should be doing a masterclass with Emma Thompson, not just because she's brilliant as an actor. She's also just a great human being, great to work with the crew, and also she manages her own energy. And the rest of us, we're all like, oh, how do we manage our energy through this? And Emma's just like, I got it, you know. She's really quite something.
And it comes across, you know, you can imagine it was quite intense to shoot, mainly also because of kind of the location, the setup, almost like a theatre play, like a two-hander. So I was wondering, you know, was that some of that motivated also, you know, by the conditions with the pandemic? But, you know, how does that also maybe go against perhaps our ideas of, you know, the seedy backroom hotel or back alleyway that we associate with sex work?
Yeah, totally. I think breaking down expectations is a big part of the story. I was really drawn to the idea of a one-room film because it meant I could focus on the actors and what was going on between them, and that seemed fantastic. But yeah, I made a choice really early to make it during the daylight and to make it really bright and to sort of reveal everything. And that's kind of unusual, I think. But I think, yeah, sex work on screen has been so boring, I'll just say. Like, problematic as well, you know. and meeting with and talking to so many sex workers, you know, the job is like a barista's or a lawyer's or a doctor's, you know. There are days where you're bored as, you know, there are days where, or there are people that are doing it that are like, I need the money, so I go and do my job, right? Like, and there are people who get something else out of it, who kind of think of it vocationally. So it's the same. So for me, it was kind of, there was a frankness, a reality to that was very kind of underplayed, I suppose, and that Leo needed to inhabit. You know, he's offering a fantasy, but it also just is his job. And those two things needed to kind of meet.
And what do you hope people take away from watching this film? Because it just feels like, yeah, there's so many kind of refreshing and unexpected moments to it, kind of challenging stereotypes. But it's also just incredibly endearing and charming at moments, feels very sex positive. And there was also something that occurred to me that, you know, perhaps there's obviously the idea of the sexual fantasy, but that both of them also have a fantasy to be listened to and to connect with someone. And almost that's what incidentally ends up playing out, aside from just the side of like physical pleasure.
I mean, I think that's what we all want, is connection, like real connection, and we do all sorts of things to try and get it, and oftentimes that leads us away from it, you know. We think we have to please everybody and be a certain way, and in fact, when you love somebody or when you're drawn to somebody, those things don't matter so much. But I guess the thing that I hope people will take away, aside from, you know, opening up to sort of somebody that, you know, you might not normally hang out with, is something about ourselves and our own bodies, which is, you know, that we're sort of steeped in these kind of shame around our bodies. We're told that they're not good enough. We're told that they're flawed in every way, and that also that they're there for other people's gaze, you know, that they're there to be looked at, and that's their most important function. And yet they do these incredible things for us, you know. They keep us alive, moving, give us pleasure, like all of these things that bodies do, and we are so horrible to them. The idea that they could be, that they are our homes and not a billboard or a kind of ornament for somebody is, I think, a really important one.
And just finally, very quickly, just the idea of also putting an old woman on screen and exploring sexuality. And, you know, I saw a few comments, you know, what would it be like if you reversed it and it was an older man with a younger woman? But of course, we have to accept the power dynamics are always different according to gender. So just, you know, on that theme, just very quickly.
100%. I mean, you know what? If we reverse this and we had a character that had never had an orgasm who was a man and had like fit himself into a whole lot of boxes to be the best father and the best teacher and everything, great, I'm up for that with a young woman. But that is not the story that we would see, because the power dynamic about men and women across ages is so different to that, and so filled with a whole lot of other things. So great, tell the exact same story the other way? Yeah. But the other version we see all the time. And the problem is we would see the same age difference as though they were the same age if it was the other way around. We pretend that someone in their 40s and someone in their 20s went to university together and have 2 kids when it's a man that's older and a woman that's younger. Now that's devastating, because that's what we then think is a middle-aged woman. I mean, no one can live up to these things, you know. Yeah.
That's been so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. Can't wait for everyone else to see this incredible film. Thank you so much. Cheers.